Hi there. Today I'll be showing you the Elk plugin for Rhino and Grasshopper. This is a useful tool for architects and urban designers, especially if you're using Rhino. So Elk is a plugin that takes OpenStreetMap data and makes it into editable geometry for us to use within Rhino. So you can download it on Food for Rhino. It's easy to install. The data that it works off is from OpenStreetMaps, which is an open source property data resource. So today we're going to be taking data from Footscray, and I'll be showing you how to get buildings, roads, waterways, and a number of other things that are useful. So in this particular case, I already have Footscray ready. It's quite easy to do. We export here and we hit export, and that should prompt a download that we can now use. So that'll show up in your downloads folder. We can leave that there for now. We'll start up a fresh Rhino file. And it's pretty important that we use large objects and meters. It's because this is a large scale piece of geometry that we're working with. So we'll boot up Grasshopper. And I have an example file that we can use. So now that the file has loaded, you can see the Elk 2 plugin. That's the one that we've installed. There is an older one, but this is the newer model, and there are three components. There's the file location component, the OSM data component, and the topography component. The topography won't be the focus of today's video, so we'll be looking at these two, which I've already connected to a file path. This will be for the data we downloaded before that I showed you. It takes about 30 seconds to load, but now that it has loaded in, what the location component is doing is taking that data and making it readable for Grasshopper and Rhino. The output that we care about most is the OSM data output, and we can put that straight into our OSM data component so that Rhino can use the data. What makes this a powerful tool is that within this component, when you right click on it, you can have a feature type. And there are a number of these, everything from roads and buildings, historic areas, land use, offices, routes, railways. And within each of those, say I choose building, you can select a subtype. So that prompts a pop-up, and because it's open source data, not all of these are totally accurate. Things like the farm auxiliary and hangars and things don't really apply to us, but certainly things like apartments and buildings, houses, public areas, they certainly do apply to us, and we can use those in very powerful ways. So in this example, I've generated already the 3D geometry, and that's built into the OSM data. So these are all the heights of the actual buildings in the area. And that's very useful for us for simulations and sunlight studies, as well as general massings for renders and other tasks we may have as architects. But it can be broken down further. So in this case, the data for waterways is here, and that spits out points. And when we connect it to a polyline, we easily have our waterway. We can break it down into sports areas. Here we can point out those areas within Footscray, shops, the existing power lines, different land uses. This one in particular, there are subtypes. So I've picked allotments, commercial, construction, industrial, recreational, and residential. And that's a really easy way of categorizing the area of Footscray. The next most important one is all of the highways and thoroughfares. And that can be broken down, again, even further to various other ones. The most useful ones I'll show you in the next tutorial. There's also amenities as well. So what makes this as a powerful tool is when I take these and bake them, I can bake them into their own individual layers, and I can have a very organized 3D representation of Footscray that can be manipulated in either Rhino or exported into the other programs we use, such as Photoshop or Illustrator. In the particular case of this class, things I wanted to highlight in Footscray were obviously the 3D buildings and their geometry, the routes that exist within it, and then I broke that down further. So we can see all of the residential areas. That's a subtype here that I've chosen. It's under highways, and then you go to the subfeature, and these are all of the subfeatures I've chosen. Broken that down into large roads as well, service roads, main roads, and bus and tram routes as well. Because they're now editable polylines, I can offset those curves and create roads. For the purpose of this, these are estimated sizes, but here, for instance, I've made residential roads 8 meters wide, the large roads 12, and so on. And that way I can have an overall very useful output when they're baked into their respective layers. And in the other file I've prepared, that's all done and baked. I've done a little bit of cleanup. That doesn't take too long, about 10 minutes. But you add in your residential roads, large roads, service roads, main roads, tram routes, and building surfaces themselves. Optionally, there is the building line work. Depending on what I'm doing and how I want to use this line work, I can use it for various things. For this particular scenario, I'm interested in making a really quick figuregram map. So I've done it as surfaces for the purpose of using a specific display port or display style. So if we use, for instance, white on black, I've immediately got a very quick figuregram map of all of the relevant data that I want. And I can add back in that line work should I need it for the purposes of the map I'm creating. As a bonus to this video, I'm going to quickly demonstrate how you can make a display view in Rhino to quickly make a figuregram map. So that just comes down to our display style. I have a few custom ones set up, and you can easily do this depending on what you want in your folio and how you want to display your work. In this instance, the buildings are highlighted and the roads are a little darker, but this is very versatile. So to be able to do this, we need to start from a blank display style. So you can go to your display modes, and for this purpose we can just copy the shaded view. So that'll make a new one down here called copy of shaded one, and for this video we'll rename it to demock example. So this is quite easy, and we'll be able to see it change in real time. So I'll set our display style to example that we've just made. And it's quite easy to change, but it's not well known how to do this. So we can change our background to a solid color that we would like to. In this case, we're going to go for the black background, and we want our objects to be shaded to a specific color. And for our objectives, it will again be white. Depending on what you like, you can make it various colors, and you can even add a gradient if you'd like to. But as I said, we'll stick with white for now. What we've lost here is the line work. So we can bring those back in a couple of ways. Within the display style, we can force all of the line work to be one color. Currently it's set as the object's color. You can set it as your own, and we'll just force it to be white here, so we can bring that detail back. And that's how you create a display style to quickly make a figuregram map.